Every year, millions of Americans spend thousands on flights to Europe. The hotels, the exchange rate, the layovers, it adds up fast. And then you spend 10 days trying to absorb something that took centuries to build. Here's what most people never figure out. There are real, livable towns scattered across the United States where the architecture is genuinely European, the culture runs generations deep, and you can actually afford to stay. Not theme parks. Real towns with real history. These are 13 budget-friendly American towns that actually feel like living in Europe. Number 13. Holland, Michigan. Founded in 1847 by Dutch settlers, Holland is home to De Zwaan, a genuine 18th century Dutch windmill, and the only one in the United States still licensed by the Dutch government to grind grain. The Tulip Time Festival draws close to 500,000 visitors every spring. Outside of festival season, it is a functioning city of 33,000 people with Lake Michigan access and home values well below Chicago. The Dutch character here runs year-round, not just in May. Number 12. New Braunfels, Texas. A German prince literally named this town after his family estate back home. Prince Karl of Solms-Braunfels led a convoy of Central German immigrants here in 1845, and the roots never faded. The historic Gruen district still carries that hill country German character with traditional architecture and Wurstfest, a sausage and beer festival running for over 50 years. The Kommel River cutting through town echoes the Rhine Valley geography the settlers were drawing from. Affordable by Texas standards. Number 11. Frankenmuth, Michigan. Founded by Bavarian missionaries in 1845, Frankenmuth has timber-framed buildings, flower boxes, covered bridges, and a glockenspiel tower performing every 30 minutes in a town of just over 5,000 people. It draws millions of visitors annually, hosts the world's largest Christmas store, and still sits well below Michigan metro housing costs. What makes it work is consistency. The town commits to what it is and never lets up. Number 10. St. Genevieve, Missouri. This one surprises almost everyone. Founded around 1750 by French Creole settlers, St. Genevieve holds the largest surviving concentration of French colonial Creole architecture in all of North America. Not in Quebec, not in Louisiana, in Missouri. The vertical log construction technique used here has nearly disappeared everywhere else in the world. Designated a National Historical Park in 2020. Around 4,500 people, genuinely affordable, and largely undiscovered. Number 9. New Glarus, Wisconsin. 108 immigrants from the Swiss canton of Glarus founded this town in 1845 in rolling Wisconsin hills that genuinely mirror the Swiss countryside. Swiss flags, alpine murals, and a consistent visual code throughout. And it is also home to New Glarus Brewing, makers of Spotted Cow, sold exclusively within Wisconsin. Around 2,000 people. Affordable and unlike anywhere else in the state. Number 8. Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Built directly into a steep limestone ridge in 1879, Eureka Springs has streets that follow the terrain rather than a grid, producing stone staircases, switchback roads, and Victorian buildings climbing the hillside in every direction. That organic layout is far more common in medieval European hill towns than anywhere in the American South. The entire downtown is a National Historic District, and home prices are among the lowest you will find anywhere with this level of character. Number 7. Galena, Illinois. Lead mining made Galena one of the wealthiest Midwest cities in the 1800s, and that wealth got built in stone. 85% of downtown buildings are on the National Register of Historic Places. Italianate storefronts and federal-style mansions on streets that look more like a European trading port than rural Illinois. What preserved it was geography. The driftless area terrain the glaciers missed also kept out the highway development that reshaped the surrounding Midwest. Around 3,000 people today at small-town Illinois prices. Number 6. Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. Two coal towns merged in 1954 and renamed themselves after the Olympic athlete Jim Thorpe. The name tells one story, but the town tells another. Victorian-era stone buildings climb both sides of a narrow Pocono mountain valley in a configuration that looks more like a Swiss alpine town than anything typically American. People have been calling it the Switzerland of America since the 1800s. Carbon County is one of the more affordable in Pennsylvania, and the visual effect of that valley is genuinely hard to forget. Number 5. Fredericksburg, Texas. German immigrants arrived in 1846, and German remained the dominant language here for decades. The last German-language newspaper in Texas published in Fredericksburg well into the 20th century. Today, it sits in the heart of Texas Hill Country wine country, but Main Street still carries its original limestone character. Unique to this area are the Sunday houses, small second homes, German farmers built in town for church weekends, a building type found almost nowhere else in America. Number 4. New Castle, Delaware. Founded by the Dutch in 1651 and later Delaware's first capital, New Castle is one of the most intact colonial towns in the country. The 17th century Central Green, the Amstel House, the Dutch House, the original courthouse, cobblestone streets along the Delaware River. The entire old district is a National Historic Landmark, and people actually live in these homes today. Close enough to Wilmington and Philadelphia to be practical, the kind of place European visitors recognize immediately. Number 3. Helen, Georgia. In 1969, Helen was a dying timber town with no obvious future. A local artist sketched out a plan to rebuild it as a Bavarian alpine village. Business owners agreed, facades went up, and the town committed. The transformation became thorough enough that visitors from Germany have noted the accuracy. The Blue Ridge ridgelines rising on either side genuinely support the alpine framing. Around 500 permanent residents at Georgia cost of living prices. A town that rebuilt itself from almost nothing into something that now defines the entire area. Number 2. St. Augustine, Florida. Founded in 1565, St. Augustine is the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in the United States. The Castillo de San Marcos, a Spanish fortress built from a local shellstone that absorbs cannonball impact rather than shattering, still stands on the waterfront and was never taken by force. Narrow lanes, iron-grilled balconies, and a Spanish colonial streetscape shaped by over 4 centuries of continuous occupation. A working coastal city with walkable streets and property values still well below South Florida. For this level of European character with Atlantic coast access, it is hard to match. Number 1. Leavenworth, Washington. By the early 1960s, Leavenworth was disappearing. The railway had rerouted, the timber industry had collapsed, and the town of 1,500 had no clear way forward. Local leaders settled on a plan that sounds almost too strange to work. Rebuild the entire town as a Bavarian alpine village, not a street, the whole town. The architectural code they established still requires every commercial building to follow Bavarian design standards: steep roofs, painted facades, timber detailing, window boxes, no exceptions. What makes it work is the landscape behind it. The Cascade Range rises directly above the valley. Icicle Creek runs along the edge of town. The Wenatchee National Forest surrounds everything. This is not a flat plain dressed up in European clothing. It is exactly the terrain Bavarian architecture was built for. Home prices in Chelan County remain well below the Seattle metro. Hiking, skiing, river recreation, and one of the largest Oktoberfest celebrations in the Pacific Northwest. This is the kind of place people move toward. It earns the top spot. You do not have to cross an ocean to find this. These places are here. Most are still affordable. And that will not always be the case. Subscribe if you made it this far into the video.